Imagine coming home every day to an empty apartment, cooking dinner alone, watching a series alone, sleeping alone, and waking up the next day to do it all over again. Now imagine that this isn't just a difficult period in your life. It's your entire existence. 700 years of it. This is the world of WALLE, a small trash compacting robot, abandoned on a planet that humanity destroyed and then discarded like used packaging. Earth has become a toxic wasteland, covered in mountains of trash that reach the sky. And WALLE is the last of his line. All other robots identical to him have ceased to function centuries ago. He is completely alone, and every night, after a full day of compacting trash, stacking cubes of waste into towers that disappear into the dusty horizon, he returns to his container, a small space he's made his home. He turns on an old television, yellowed with age, and watches the same romantic musical, over and over again. The tape is on, the colors are faded, but he never tires. But here's what makes this image devastating. WALL-E isn't just passively watching. He's studying, he's learning what it means to connect with another being, learning what it's like to hold someone's hand, learning about love, about intimacy, about something he's never experienced but craves with every circuit in his mechanical body. Something you and I are also searching for, often in the wrong places. Unscreened that promise connection, but deliver only the illusion of it. Today, we'll decode WALL-E's psychological journey through the lens of Carl Jung's analytical psychology, Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, and the existential philosophy that questions what it truly means to be human. And I promise that by the end of this video, you will understand why the story of a lone robot on a trash planet is actually the most accurate map for rediscovering your own humanity in a world that seems increasingly devoid of real meaning. If you want to understand the deep psychology hidden in your favorite stories, if you want to decode the archetypes and patterns that shape not only fiction but your own life, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because each week we delve deep into the narratives that define our culture. Now, let's begin this journey. Let's take a closer look at WALLE's routine under a microscope. Because it's not just the routine of a programmed robot. It's the routine of millions of people living lives that seem programmed by forces they didn't choose. He wakes up with the sun rising over a horizon of garbage. He goes to work. He compacts garbage. He stacks perfectly symmetrical cubes. He compacts more garbage. He stacks more cubes. It's mechanical, it's repetitive, it's endless. He's been doing this for 700 years. The same thing, every day. No vacations, no holidays, no variation. It's easy to look at this and think, what an empty existence. What a meaningless life. But before we judge the little robot, we need to ask an uncomfortable question. How many of us are living exactly like this? Wake up, work, repeat, consume content at night to numb the mind, sleep, wake up, repeat. But there's something WALL-E does that makes him fundamentally different. Something he wasn't programmed to do. Something that defies his very purpose. He collects. He interrupts his work to examine objects that have no functional use. He seeks beauty amidst the universal discard. A zipper lighter that still produces that mesmerizing flame. A Rubik's Cube with vibrant colors contrasting with the sounding gray. A VHS tape of an old musical that no one is alive to see anymore. A fork he uses as a comb, without understanding its original purpose. And, occasionally, a small green plant sprouting impossibly from an old, rusty refrigerator. These objects have no function. They don't improve your efficiency as a trash compactor. They don't help you process more cubes per hour. They don't increase your productivity, but they have something that everything else around them doesn't. Meaning, they are fragments of a world that had beauty, creativity, life, and purpose beyond mere function, and you do it too. Maybe you collect songs that touch your soul in ways you can't rationally explain, or photos of moments that made you feel truly alive, even if only for a few seconds, or quotes you save on your phone, screenshots of phrases that seem to describe exactly what you feel, but you rarely go back to reread, or objects with no commercial value but immense emotional value, a rock from a special beach, an old note, a memory from when you still believed in certain things. These are your attempts to find beauty and meaning in a world that insists on reducing you to an economic function. A world that measures your worth by your productivity, not by the depth of your experience. A world that asks you, what do you do? Never, what makes you feel alive? WALLE is stuck in a seemingly meaningless routine, on a literally dead planet, surrounded by mountains of garbage that represent humanity's civilizational failure. And yet, he hasn't lost something essential, something many humans with seemingly better lives have already lost: the ability to wonder, the ability to seek connection, the ability to hope for something more, the ability to believe that beauty and meaning are still possible. And if you're watching this video now, if you clicked on it among all the other videos that could distract you, it's because you haven't completely lost it either. You're still searching. You still feel, even if it's just a muffled whisper beneath the layers of responsibilities and expectations, that there's something more real, more beautiful, more true than the routine that consumes your days and drains your vital energy. And you're absolutely right. There is, and WALLE is about to show us exactly how to find it. But the path won't be easy, and it will require something we all fear. And then, everything changes. On a day like every other 700 years of identical days, the ship descends from the sky in a burst of technology that seems magical compared to the rusted world of Wall-E. And from it emerges Eve. She is everything that shouldn't exist in Wall-E's world. She is white, clean, and smooth, where everything round her is brown, dirty, and rough. She floats gracefully where he drags himself clumsily. She is the future, while he is a forgotten artifact of the past. In Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, this is the moment called the call to adventure. The moment when the ordinary world, however miserable, is interrupted by something extraordinary. The moment when destiny knocks on the door and offers a choice: remain in the safety of the known or venture into the mystery of the unknown. But in Carl Jung's analytical psychology, Evie represents something even deeper and more personal. She is WALLE's enema, and understanding this is crucial to understanding the entire journey. The enema, in Jungian theory, is the personification of the soul in the male unconscious. It is the feminine aspect that inhabits the psyche of every man, regardless of how he identifies externally. The enema is not a real person. It is an internal image, an archetype, that represents everything that lies beyond the functional persona we present to the world. Anima connects us with mystery, with deep emotion, with what lies beyond pure logic and social function. It is through encountering anima that a person discovers their soul. And when anima is projected into a real person, as WALLE projects into Eve, that person becomes the portal to psychological transformation. Eve is everything Wall-E is not: agile, where he is clumsy; technologically advanced, where he is obsolete and broken; focused on a clear mission, where he is guided only by directionless curiosity; powerful, where he is vulnerable. But it is precisely this difference that makes her the perfect complement, the key that can unlock his completeness. Notice what Wall-E does when he finally gets her attention. He doesn't try to impress her effectively, because he knows he can't compete at that level. He doesn't pretend to be something he's not, because he doesn't even know how. Instead, he does something radically vulnerable. He shows her his treasures. He takes Eve to his container, to his most intimate space, and one by one, with the enthusiasm of a child showing off his collection to someone who finally cares. He shares the objects that give meaning to his existence. The lighter, the Rubik's Cube, the videotape. He offers genuine connection, not performance. He offers his truth, not an edited version of it. And when he shows her the plant, the little green seed miraculously sprouting from the trash, something profound happens in the narrative. This plant is not just a MacGuffin, a plot device that moves the story forward. In the symbolic language that permeates all great myths and archetypal stories, it represents the self with a capital as the center of the psyche, the nucleus of wholeness, the symbol of complete individuation in Jungian theory. It's proof that life, true consciousness, and the possibility of renewal still exist, even in a world that seems utterly dead. It's the seed of hope on a planet that has given in to despair. It's the vibrant green of life in an ocean of dead grey, and WALLE protected her, without knowing why, without understanding her cosmic significance, without having been instructed to do so, simply because something deep within him, something beyond his programming, recognized that she was precious and worth preserving. But here's the hard truth that every hero on every hero's journey faces, and that you will face too if you decide to follow your soul, to seek the connection that gives meaning to existence, to follow Anima wherever she leads. WALLE will have to completely abandon the only world he knows. He will have to leave behind his safety, even if it's the safety of a solitary existence. He will have to abandon his routine, even if it's the only thing that gives structure to his days. He will have to venture into the absolute unknown. And when he is brought back to the ship, her body in hibernation mode, unconscious, Wally doesn't calculate risks. He doesn't weigh the odds of success. He doesn't hesitate for a second. He simply clings to the side of the spaceship and travels into deep space, to a place he wasn't designed to exist, where the conditions could destroy him, because when you find that which give meaning to your existence, you have no rational choice but to follow it. Even if it means losing everything, even if it means risking your very survival, the self calls and the soul responds, and then WALLE arrives at the Axiom, a gigantic spaceship, the size of an entire city, where the last remnants of humanity have lived for 700 years. And what he finds is disturbing in ways that go far beyond the obvious. Humans don't walk. They float in automated chairs that transport them anywhere without any physical effort. They don't converse face to face. They speak to holographic screens inches from their faces, even when they're side by side with other people. They don't experience. They consume predigested entertainment, liquid meals that don't require chewing, synthetic experiences that don't require real presence. They don't live. They exist in a state of perpetual comfort and total psychological anesthesia. There are no challenges. There are no risks. There is no friction with reality. And consequently, there is no growth, no meaning, no true life. And here lies the insight that elevates our analysis beyond superficial criticism of technology. These humans are not villains. They are not stupid, lazy, or morally flawed. They are victims of something that depth psychology calls psychic dissociation, a complete separation, a total disconnection between mind and body, between consciousness and physical reality, between ego and self. They lost what existentialist philosophers call being in the world, the direct, embodied experience of existing in a real context, with weight, gravity, and consequences. They became floating consciousnesses and anchored from any concrete reality. Plato described this over 2,000 years ago in the allegory of the cave. One of the most powerful metaphors in Western philosophy. Prisoners chained since birth, seeing only shadows projected on the wall in front of them, believing that those two-dimensional shadows are the entirety of reality, unable to imagine that there is a real world out there, three-dimensional, under the true sun, with true colors and true experiences, The axiom is a technological version of Plato's cave. Holographic screens are the contemporary shadows, and humans have completely lost touch with two essential things that define authentic human existence. First, the Earth's physical reality, the concrete world, the ground beneath our feet, the weight of the body, the resistance of matter. And second, their own souls, the capacity to feel deeply, to connect genuinely, to seek meaning beyond comfort, to choose values and live by them. They have completely outsourced their existence. The artificial intelligence called auto governs the ship, making all the important decisions. The chairs move their bodies without them having to move a muscle. The screens entertain their minds without them having to actively seek anything. The robots fulfill their every need before they are even consciously aware of it. They don't have to do anything at all, and by doing nothing, by choosing nothing, by striving for nothing, they have become nothing. Carl Jung warned about this in the context of modern psychology. He said that when we don't integrate the unconscious, when we don't dialogue with our soul, when we don't confront our shadow, we don't become more rational or more civilized. We become possessed by forces we don't understand. We lose our humanity without even realizing it was slipping away. We become psychological automatons, repeating patterns without awareness that the irony is devastating. In a ship full of humans, WALLE, a robot, is the most human of all. Because he still chooses, he still seeks, he still marvels. But watch closely what happens when WALLE enters this hermetic, controlled world. He's chaotic, he's unpredictable, he's always breaking things, disrupting flows, causing small disasters. He's a force of positive entropy in a system that has eliminated all unpredictability, and in doing so, by simply being who he is, he accidentally wakes people up. Literally. He lifts them out of their chairs, forces them to experience gravity, to feel the weight of their own bodies. John and Mary. To humans who have literally lived their entire lives on this ship, who have never looked beyond their holographic screens, who have passed each other countless times without ever making real eye contact. But when Wally accidentally knocks them out of their chairs, when they fall and have to look beyond the screens out of necessity, something extraordinary happens. They see. They really see for the first time. They see the pool with real water. They see the real stars, not holographic projections of them. They see each other as real, three-dimensional people, not avatars on screens. And for the first time in their entire lives, they make a conscious choice to turn off the screens, experience reality directly, connect, live. But the most powerful moment of transformation, the moment that defines the entire narrative and the entire psychological message of the film, is yet to come. And then we come to the scene that defines absolutely everything. The scene that sums up the entire philosophy of the film in a few minutes of pure visual poetry. WALLE and Eve are in outer space, floating in the infinite cosmic void. And Wally, in a burst of pure joy, grabs a fire extinguisher and begins using it as propulsion to fly around Eve. They dance. They play like children. They laugh soundlessly in the vacuum of space. They circle each other while the entire galaxy spins majestically in the background. Colorful nebulae and countless stars bearing witness to this small moment of joy. There is absolutely no purpose in it. There is no goal. There is no productivity. There is no function. There is no one watching to impress. There is no external reward. It is an act of pure beauty, of pure joy, of pure connection. It is life in its most essential, distilled form. And it is precisely at this moment that something profoundly significant happens in the narrative. It is here that consciousness represented by Eve, the logical exploration, the planned mission, the clear objective and emotion represented by WALLE, the aimless curiosity, the desire, the search for connection come together in a harmonious whole. Jung would call this the coniunctio oppositorum, the conjunction of opposites, the alchemical moment when the separate and fragmented aspects of the psyche integrate into a greater whole, the sacred marriage between logos and eros, between thought and feeling, between function and meaning. And when this happens, the soul isn't awakened through logical arguments, not through optimized efficiency, not through more technology or more comfort, but through an act of beauty that's completely useless by the standards of our productivist culture. And now, I need you to pause internally and answer a question with absolute honesty, without judging yourself, just observing the truth. When was the last time you did something purely for beauty or joy? Something with absolutely no productivity goal, no measurable goal, no return on investment, no social media photos. For most of us, it's genuinely difficult to remember, because we live in a culture that has programmed us, as efficiently as WLLE's programming, to believe that everything must have a measurable function. Even our hobbies must be productive or generate some value. Even our rest needs to be optimized for a better performance. Even our fun needs to be documented and socially validated. We've forgotten how to simply be, how to experience, how to dance in space just because it's beautiful. So here's your immediate practical exercise. Something you can do today, before bed, that will begin to reconnect you with your soul. Identify a small, useless act of beauty you can do. Listen to a song you love with full attention, without doing anything else, without looking at your phone, just listening. Observe the sky for 5 full minutes, noticing the clouds, the colors, the vastness. Draw something, even if you can't draw, just for the pleasure of movement. Dance alone in your room to music that moves you. Cook something elaborate just for the pleasure of the process, not for efficiency. Do something that serves absolutely no purpose except to remind your soul that it's still alive, that you're not just a function, that your life isn't just a sequence of tasks to be completed, because that's exactly what Wall-E and Eve's dance does to the narrative. It doesn't directly save humanity, it doesn't defeat Auto, it doesn't solve the problem of Earth's pollution. But it plants an invisible seed, a seed that will begin to awaken something deeply dormant in all who witness its simple beauty. Awakening spreads like ripples on a still lake. The captain, who has literally spent his entire life sitting, who has never questioned anything, who has never imagined alternatives, begins to ask questions. You begin to question SCLF. He begins to investigate Earth's history. He begins to imagine the possibility of returning to humanity's home planet. And then comes the defining moment, the moment he sees images of Earth not as it is now, not just as it was, but as it could be again, with work, with dedication, with conscious choice. And he makes the hardest decision any human being can make, to fight against everything familiar for what is true. He stands up, literally stands up, against the artificial gravity that Auto increases to keep him grounded, against 700 years of human muscular atrophy, against the force of an artificial intelligence that controls everything, against the crushing weight of civilizational inertia. He rises because he has decided that humanity deserves more than a floating existence of empty comfort and guaranteed security. That truly living, with all its risks and hardships, is better than existing in perpetual anesthesia. And here lies the elixir, the reward of the heroic journey, the reawakening of authentic consciousness, the return to concrete reality, the rediscovery of connection with oneself as an embodied being, with others as real people, not profiles, with the physical world as a place to be inhabited, not just observed through screens. Humans return to Earth, and yes, it is severely damaged. Yes, it will be immensely difficult to rebuild. Yes, they will have to work, sweat, struggle, and suffer. But they consciously choose real life over artificial comfort. They choose conscious and meaningful struggle over unconscious and empty anesthesia. They choose to be human again. Remember the first image we saw at the beginning of this video? Wally, completely alone in his container, watching the romantic movie, holding his own hand in the absence of anyone else, mimicking the gestures of intimacy he sees on screen but has never experienced. That image of pure existential loneliness, of complete isolation, of a yearning for a connection that seems impossible to satisfy. Now look at this final image. Wally is finally holding Eve's hand, not his own, an empty gesture, not a fantasy projected on a screen, the real hand of someone he loves, who loves him back, choosing to be with him. Surrounded by humans who are actively relearning how to plant in the earth, how to build with their hands, how to live in real bodies in a real world. This is the promise of the film, and this is the promise of your own psychological journey of individuation. You are not destined to live in functional solitude, compacting the metaphorical garbage of your daily routine, passively waiting for something to magically change. The connection you seek with yourself as a whole being, with others genuinely, with reality in all its concrete texture is already available, but it requires an active choice. The same choice Wally made when he clung to that ship and headed into the unknown. The same choice the captain made when he rose from his chair against all the forces pushing him down. You have to consciously decide that your life deserves more than comfortable anesthesia, that your soul deserves more than endless passive consumption, that your existence deserves to be actively lived, experienced, felt, not just endured until it ends. So what does a lonely robot teach us about the human soul? He teaches us that humanity isn't something we automatically possess because we're born with human DNA. It's something we actively acquire every day, through conscious choices, through acts of genuine curiosity that open us to new things, through acts of real connection that lift us out of isolation, through acts of care that affirm that something beyond ourselves matters. Wally had no soul at first. He was literally a machine, circuits and metal programmed for a specific function. But through his continued choice to seek beauty amidst the trash, to protect life even when it seemed futile, to follow connection, even at the risk of destruction, he became more deeply human than the very humans who created him. And that's the liberating and terrifying truth. You can do the same. Not tomorrow when the conditions are perfect. Not when you have more time or more money or more security. Today. Now. With a small act of beauty that no one but you will witness. With a moment of real presence instead of automatic distraction. With the courage to turn off the screen and see what's right in front of you, waiting to be experienced. The soul isn't something you discover on a spiritual retreat or in a self-help book. It's something you build, brick by brick, choice by choice, moment by moment. If this video touched you, if it rekindled even a small flame of hope or possibility, please leave a like so more people can find this message and share it with someone you feel needs to hear it, not because I need views, but because these ideas need to circulate in a world that is desperately trying to convince us that we are merely economic functions. And tell me in the comments, honestly, what will be your useless beauty act today? I want to know. I'll read it, and your answer might inspire someone else to do the same. Wally taught us that love can reignite the soul, that genuine connection can awaken dormant consciousness, that a small, seemingly insignificant act of care can change the fate of an entire civilization. But what happens when love, this force that should set us free, turns dark? When the desire to protect someone turns into paralyzing fear? When fear turns into a need for control? And when control turns into all-consuming darkness? In our next video, we'll explore the archetypal psychology of Star Wars. And I'll show you why Anakin Skywalker's downfall wasn't a tragic accident or a character flaw. It was psychologically inevitable from the moment we met him as an enslaved child. And why we all carry the same seed of darkness that transformed him into Darth Vader. Because light and darkness are not external forces. They are potentials within each of us, and understanding this can be the difference between embracing your shadow or being destroyed by it. Until then, remember, humanity is something we make, not something we have. Make your choice today. Your soul is waiting.